website, which will be listed here in the chat. Thank you very much. We do have automated closed captioning available for those using the Teams app. And of course, we hope that you are using the Teams app. It will allow for a better experience for you, especially if you're going to be presenting with us today. We also ask that if you haven't already, please alter your display names to reflect both your name and your organization. This will help us and your fellow attendees throughout the sessions this morning. If you would like to participate, we kindly ask that you use the Teams raised hand function, or if you're joining us via the phone today, please press *5. Please keep this hand raised until the moderator calls on you. And if you would like to share presentations with the rest of the audience today, our behind the scenes team will make sure you have access and an ability to share from your computer system. You don't have to send your presentations to us ahead of time. Please keep your mic on mute until you're called upon. And then if you are going to use the phone for this, please use *6 to unmute yourself. Of course, before you start speaking, we kindly would like you to identify yourself as well as your organization. And finally, we will limit remarks to 5 minutes maximum. Now, if you are unable to join the queue for some reason or some sort of technical difficulties, you can email the data center team at datacenters@ntia.gov during the session. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's get started. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our first speaker today, is NTIA's Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary and Deputy Administrator, Adam Cassidy. Adam was appointed as Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary and Deputy Administrator to NTIA on March 16, 2025. In this capacity, he provides advice and assistance to the Assistant Secretary or Associate Administrator on things such as the formulation, development, and implementation of telecommunications and information policies of the executive branch. So prior to his time now with NTIA, Adam served for over 4 years at the Federal Communications Commission, specifically in support of Commissioner Nathan Symington. Most recently, he was Mr. Symington's Chief of Staff. Prior to joining the FCC, Adam was a co-founder of a technology firm focused on delivering enterprise machine learning systems or solutions. So everyone, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Adam Cassidy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Maureen, and thanks to everyone for joining today. It's my honor to join you all and listen and learn, which is the focus of our conversation today. I also want to thank our colleagues from the U.S. Department of Energy for working with us, and the acting Principal DAS, Nerukar, for providing remarks as well. Commerce and energy are working together closely to ensure that we have the necessary resources to fuel economic growth in the United States and to help cement our technological leadership globally. So NTIA, we are the President's principal advisor on telecommunications and information issues. Obviously, this touches data centers very directly. We sort of develop policy, we support, we advise on sort of emerging technologies, the most interesting of which these days is AI. As part of that mission, we support our nation's data centers, which we consider to be the enabling technology of generative AI. As you all know, generative AI is an inflection point. In many ways, we don't know what's after. But what is clear is that we need to lead. If we are going to get to a free and open and competitive marketplace in generative AI, the United States has a critical leading role in that on the global stage. And of course, this represents a massive opportunity for data center operators, those who support, and so on. So what we are here to learn about today is not just generative AI. Of course, it's an interesting component of the current sort of marketplace dynamics, but where we see the critical needs and critical capabilities that can be answered on the one hand or brought to bear on the other by the United States government. So what can we do to foment the kind of marketplace that we need in data centers? That I think is our principal interest. So, with that, I'm not going to take up too much time. I want to, thank you all for your attendance. I'm looking forward to listening and learning along with the rest of you. And thank you again, Maureen.
Thank you so much, Adam. We really appreciate those insightful remarks, and we're looking forward to these conversations as well. So now it's my other privilege, or a continual privilege here this morning, to welcome our Department of Energy counterpart, Acting Executive Director of the Office of Policy, Nilesh Narukar. He currently, in this role, he advises the Secretary of Energy, the White House, and Congress on policies to drive investment in affordable, reliable, and secure energy solutions. Prior to joining the department, Nilesh was the Vice President at Clearview Energy Partners, and has served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy, and has provided senior advisory roles to the Department of State, Congressional Research, as well as an advisor at the National Security Council and National Economic Council. Mr. Narukar, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So excuse
Hello,
good
you,
morning,
Maureen.
sir. Yeah, excuse the pauses while we allow people to have speaking and video privileges.
There, I think you can hear and see me now.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen, for setting this up, and Assistant Secretary Cassidy. Really appreciate this opportunity to hear from the folks that have assembled. I think this sort of insight is very valuable to us at the department as we continue in our work around helping the United States maintain AI leadership. Our work in that space is in two broad areas, and both are equally important. The department has a longstanding mission in maintaining advanced computing, and we have some of the fastest computers in the world, and using those to model scientific phenomenon has been a major asset in U.S. scientific discovery and a real boon for our economy. We also have an energy mission, which makes sure that this advanced computing, whether it's for whoever it's for, these data centers have the energy that they need to run. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. My day job is as the Director for Infrastructure Policy here at the department. And so a lot of that work is making sure we have the energy infrastructure that is there to power data centers. That's emerged as a major hurdle. And the Secretary Wright has been very clear in the importance of our AI mission, both parts of it. He's described it as a Manhattan Project 2.0. And that stresses both the complexity of the issue and the importance of the issue to the United States. I'll take a minute to talk about some of the energy initiatives that the department has ongoing in this space as an example of some of the issues that we look forward to partnering with industry on. And these are just examples, but there's work across the department on initiatives to ensure that we have the power for data centers necessary to make sure that we can maintain US AI leadership. One example has been at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, where you've seen quite a bit of research on data center energy use, trying to understand where it's going. They had estimated that we are moving from data centers using about 4% of US energy in electricity in 2023 to between 7 and 12% by 2028, a significant source of growth and just in a few years. You've also seen a lot of research from LBNL on how to help make that challenge easier to meet for data centers through improved operations and efficiency measures. That's one example. In April, an issue that me and my team have been working closely on has been around using and leveraging DOE lands. And in April, we announced a request for information for 16 DOE sites where DOE could move forward with siting data centers and co-located generation. And we had a tremendous response to that from industry, a lot of interest in looking at those opportunities. And we are evaluating all the input we got from industry, including from some of you here on this call. So that was much appreciated. A third example of what DOE is doing is many places where we're using AI to actually increase energy availability. I'll talk about one particular initiative, which we have been supporting here out at the Office of Policy, and is operated out of the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. It's Permit AI. And what it does is takes decades of environmental review that's been done in the past, makes it machine readable, and we are training models on that data source to help us make environmental review for future projects much faster and better. That's just one example of how we're looking at AI to improve how energy gets to consumers. We have work on interconnection, we have work on how the grid runs. So these are examples of how we're looking to address the Manhattan 2.0 challenge and opportunity that the Secretary has laid out for us. And we look forward to hearing from you all about your efforts in this space and where you see opportunities and where you see challenges, and we are your partner. So thank you very much for this opportunity to hear from you. Back to you, Maureen.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your participation this morning. And of course, we want to thank your team, who have been great partners with us and collaborating with us for the last year. It was an interesting moment in interagency collaboration where everyone's like, let's do this together. Let's see what can happen. And it was amazing. So thank you. And thank you to your team.
And likewise, Maureen, it's been wonderful to collaborate with you all.
Yeah, we are definitely having a great time while we're working on this project. And that's what's wonderful about the team and the work here. So without further ado, let's get into it. I also want to note today that there are members of the Department of Energy, as well as the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration and Bureau for Industry and Security staff on the call. We want to thank everyone within our department, and of course, as we just said, with the Department of Energy, for really working together on us, because it takes a whole series of experts and policymakers and scientists and engineers to really crack this nut we call data centers. So let's get into the first session. So I will be moderating this first session, and we're going to be speaking specifically to how data center growth is affected by challenges and opportunities in permitting, supply chain management, cybersecurity, critical market considerations like infrastructure modernization, workforce development, off-grid solutions, and of course, the latest policy and market developments. We are very much interested and excited, as well as looking forward to everyone on the calls today participation here. We're very much interested in the workforce development, interoperability, standards, cybersecurity. But really, this first session is a lot about really looking into the infrastructure side of the house here. To begin with, we do have a couple folks who are pre-queued, who raised their hand early to offer presentations. And as we get going, I want to do another reminder. If you could, those in the audience could change their display name to include both their name and their organization, that'd be great. And additionally, before anyone speaks, please also provide your name and organization. And so at the start, we will begin with Bill Long from the Chief Product Officer of Zayo, and then Mr. Keegan and Mr. Bolton will be following up afterwards. So over to you, Bill.
Hey, Bill, you might be having some audio issues. So Maureen, maybe we move to the next person and we can come back to him at the end.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. We will then go to Mr. Keegan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, definitely. We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, good morning. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide the input of the wireless infrastructure industry on this important issue. My name is Stephen Keegan, and I am the Senior Counsel of Government and Legal Affairs here at the Wireless Infrastructure Association, or WIA. WIA represents the businesses that build, develop, own, and operate the nation's wireless infrastructure. Across the country, WIA advocates for the widespread, responsible deployment of wireless infrastructure to enable connectivity everywhere. WIA provides these remarks to highlight the important relationship the data center industry has with the communications ecosystem. The industry supports and is supported by the communications industry through wireless deployments large and small, and across millions of miles of fiber over land and sea, which bring data between centers and to consumers. AI thrives on data, and data depends on fast, reliable connectivity. In fact, there is no data or AI without the connected infrastructure that forms the backbones of America's networks. Simply put, wireless infrastructure is AI infrastructure. If the brains of these systems will be housed in data centers, the broader communications networks will be the nerves delivering and enabling these tools. We encourage the administration to recognize the host of deployments that enable the data center economy and ensure its recommendations spur the deployment of all AI infrastructure from the largest hyperscalers to the most bespoke edge deployments, and indeed, the infrastructure that connects them all. WIA would first like to emphasize the range of data center types that power this ecosystem. While the various deployments share many needs, including ones for nationwide permitting framework and access to resources, it is important to recognize that the data center industry is varied and utilizes different deployments based on the particular need. For example, while large hyperscale facilities are key to training and developing generative AI models, bringing these tools into consumers' lives will require distributed deployments closer to the edge. Additionally, neutral host data centers are increasing in relevance, allowing various enterprises to realize the benefits of cloud-based tools and AI without requiring the substantial upfront investment of deploying its own data centers. We encourage NTIA to recognize the breadth of these deployments and ensure its policies support all types of data centers. Further, while training frontier AI models, whether for training models, enabling innovative and smart factories and farms, or powering the next generation of applications for our mobile devices, the storage and compute housed in data centers is critical to our modern interconnected world. In the AI context specifically, the interplay between models and communication networks is symbiotic, with AI-powered tools relying on real-time data flows enabled by wireless networks, while the next generation of wireless networks will themselves be AI native and self-evolving, harnessing AI to create responsive, secure, and efficient systems. This is why, to unlock the full potential of data centers, their deployment should be considered within the broader context of communication networks. In developing policies to bolster the data center economy, WIA encourages NTIA to seek opportunities to encourage deployments across the communication stack, supporting the variety of needed data center deployments along with the communications infrastructure. And while the total AI landscape is complex and varied, there are many shared needs for success that NTIA can look to support. First, permitting, and by encouraging a nationwide permitting framework, which emphasizes predictability, proportionality, and transparency. Inconsistent and opaque permitting processes across jurisdictions create delays and drive up costs across the data center and related industries. Further, support all types of AI infrastructure. Meeting the growing needs of AI requires an equally expanding infrastructure landscape that includes a variety of power sources, data centers, and communications networks, including wireline backhaul and ubiquitous wireless connectivity. WIA encourages NTIA to take an all-of-the-above approach to bolstering this industry and not to overemphasize on a single type of deployment. Finally, we encourage you to support a highly skilled workforce, as this industry, along with many others, faces a shortage of skilled workers, such as tower construction leads, wireless and fiber optic technicians, and utility installers, necessary to deploy next-generation networks and data centers nationwide. WIA supports training and education for these occupations in colleges and universities, as well as through trade schools and apprenticeships, to create the workforce needed to achieve AI dominance and U.S. superiority in this field. NTI's recommendation should include a focus on the critical workers needed to support this industry. Thank you again for your time and attention in this matter. WIA and its members stand ready to support the administration in this critical race to ensure Americans continue to have access to the latest tools and innovations while maintaining its preeminence across technology industries. I welcome any questions from the NTIA.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We really appreciate that. And thank you for jumping in first.
Yep, thank you all.
Thank you. It does look like we have Mr. Long ready to go. I think he also has a presentation.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Much better. It helps when you turn your mic on.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess so. Some of the old school technologies.
That's right. So yeah, I'm the Chief Product and Strategy Officer here at Zayo. Zayo operates a fiber network throughout the U.S. We have a sort of a unique visibility into the AI market because we're the network that connects a lot of these data centers. So you think of a large AI training data center somewhere, if it's not connected to something, then it's just a big refrigerator in the middle of nowhere. So, we work with the hyperscalers when they're designing and building these locations. And I think as a sort of a couple strategy points here, we've done a lot of research to figure out, is it cheaper for people to build the data centers, is it cheaper to build data centers where there are large concentrations of people and bring the power to the data centers, or vice versa? And what we figured out is that it's the more optimal model is to actually build the data centers where the power is available and then do the fiber connectivity to those data centers. So it's 4 to 10 times cheaper to build fiber to bring the connectivity to the data centers than it is to bring transmission, to basically to do transmission where the power is generated back to like a major metropolitan area to where people would typically be building these data centers. So having bulk fiber connectivity, and when we're talking bulk fiber connectivity, in the past when we were connecting data centers, people would need 8, 10, 12 fibers. We're now seeing fiber needs of up to 432, 864 fibers for these huge training runs. So the amount of infrastructure from a fiber standpoint needed to power these data centers is gargantuan. The last speaker, and that's for training. You're also going to have connectivity when it's going to be inferencing, when it's happening in the metro areas, and then obviously connectivity for when you're doing end user and enterprise connectivity. But right now, the big challenge that we're having is to connect these large data centers where power is available is permitting and environmental sort of regulations. So that's one of the big asks, or one areas that we would encourage NTIA to help us figure out, is that make the process for permitting. So if you think about, if you're building a data center, you need to deal with the sort of permitting and environmental studies for that one locality. If you're building a fiber network that's traversing hundreds of municipalities, the permitting and environmental sort of a part of that becomes very cumbersome. So that's number one, is making it much easier for us to get the permitting and do the environmental studies when we're building this bulk fiber. To make that happen. One of the other things that we would encourage folks to look at is that, because these data centers are going to be built where there is power available, and we're going to be building networking to connect those. I think a good analogy to think of there, it's like an interstate highway system where the bulk big network that we're going to be building is going to connect the major metropolitan areas, but it's going to go through a lot of underserved locations. And it would be a shame if, while we're building those interstate systems, if we don't build the off-ramps to be able to serve the local communities along the way. Now, of course, just like building an interstate system where it takes money in order, building those off-ramps is actually is expensive. And if there's not enough demand for bandwidth in those rural locations, we can't warrant building those off-ramps. But what we found, we did an example with this in a NTIA helped sponsor a build that we did from Dallas to Atlanta, where if you can, we call it escaping the sort of rural broadband doom loop, where if it's not economical for us to be able to build these off ramps because there's not enough demand. But of course, there's not, industries aren't going to move into these rural communities if there's not bandwidth available. So with a little bit of thoughtful private-public partnership, then we can not only enable the connectivity to these AI data centers, but we can do it in a way that helps the communities that are proximate to those long haul builds that we're doing to serve it. So I think there's a real opportunity for us to not only accelerate the enabling these data centers where there's power available, but to help the communities that are along the way. That's a really good sort of win-win situation for everybody involved. But that's going to take a lot of sort of different private-public partnership than is currently going on today. So because you got to sit down and you got to look at the route, you got to think about what are the communities along the way that we'd like to be able to be served. I think the template for the route that we did from Dallas to Atlanta is a good template. Some of the routes that we're doing in Nevada are also good examples there. So the long and short of it is, obviously when you're thinking about, enabling AI with infrastructure, yes, the data centers are important. Getting the chips in the right place, getting the power generated at huge scale is important. But you got to think of those surround sound in order to make that viable. And that includes a lot of the network connectivity and the bulk fiber that needs to go there. And we need to speed up the permitting process. As an example, it can take 3 to 4 years for us to build some of these long haul routes. And the first 1.5 to 2 years is used for permitting. So it can make a pretty dramatic change in the ability to bring some of these locations to make them available. Okay, that was the end of my prepared remarks. I'll open it up for any questions that people might have.
Thank you so much, Bill. We appreciate that, and you hit it right at the 5-minute mark. That's fantastic. We are just for the audience, we are working on changing the slide view so we can see the speaker's face a bit more. But thank you so much, Bill, and we will move on to Mr. Gary Bolton from Fiber. From his organization, I'm sorry.
Fiber Broadband Association.
Fiber Broadband Association.
Thanks,
Apologies
Maureen.
for that.
And I want to thank Bill for those remarks. I think he hit those head on, and I hadn't heard the term doom loop, but I think that properly illustrates what happens when you don't get fiber to a community. So thank you, Bill, for those remarks. I'm Gary Bolton. I'm the president and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association, and really want to thank NTIA, Adam, Maureen, the opportunity to speak here. The Fiber Broadband Associations, we represent more than 635 companies across North America in the fiber industry. So we represent the total fiber ecosystem. So about half our member companies are broadband service providers, from the very large global providers to rural community operators and rural electric co-ops. The other half of our membership represents the supply side of the fiber industry, which includes the fiber optic manufacturer, the guys who do the electronics, the engineering consultants to design the networks, and deployment specialists to get the job done. And our mission is to accelerate deployment of all fiber networks to enable every community to leverage the economic and societal benefits that only fiber can deliver. And we really appreciate NTIA's work to promote data center growth, resiliency, and security, and its acknowledgement that access to fiber and broadband is a critical market consideration for data center industry. Indeed, fiber networks are essential to enable processing of mass amounts of data that are produced and stored in these data centers. Fiber also supports long haul and middle mile networks, so I'm sure Sarah can appreciate that. I saw her on the call, that provide reliable high-speed connectivity between data centers, which is necessary for the development of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. FBA's members are making significant investments to ensure advanced data centers across the country have fiber infrastructure that meets their demands both now and into the future. As one member recently explained, given the AI climate, fiber is not just part of the solution, it is the foundation for what comes next. The work being done by our members runs the gamut. An example, our manufacturing members are developing new and innovative products such as fiber dense cables and panels that can support faster speeds, lower latency, and greater density, as well as plug-and-play products that accelerate deployment speeds compared to traditional cabling methods. Our network operator side, our members companies have announced partnerships with AI hyperscalers such as Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon to build out fiber network infrastructure to advance data centers, as well as provide long-haul fiber connectivity between data centers. The demand for advanced data centers is expected to grow rapidly over the next few years, roughly 9% year over year through 2030, according to NTIA's own estimates last November. It is therefore crucial to address the regulatory barriers, and Bill talked a little bit about this, that may impede the deployment of fiber infrastructure that will provide connectivity both within and between advanced data centers. In particular, when providers are deploying fiber to provide connectivity between data centers, which are often located in more rural areas, they need to be able to cross federal lands, which could require permits from one or more federal agencies. Permitting delays and right-of-way access issues, particularly in connection with environmental reviews, can pose significant challenges to the deployment process by increasing both the time and the cost to complete a build. Similarly, challenges arise at the state and local level as well, stemming not only from general process inconsistencies that can disrupt large-scale construction planning, but also lack in clarity in the application process that can cause delays when applicants are told months into an application process that a review must be paused or worse, restarted because of a technical oversight in the initial application. Additionally, permitting officials may impose conditions on applicants that are overly burdensome and not commensurate with the access provided. So FBA applauds the administration's efforts thus far to tackle regulatory issues like these head on. Going forward, we urge NTIA to coordinate with interagency, congressional, and state and local partners to promote common sense permitting and right-of-way reforms, such as specific timelines for reviewing applications, improve transparency in the process, and sufficient allocation of resources to ensure applicants can be processed in a timely and cost-effective manner. FBA also supports the adoption of Dig Once policy that minimizes the costs and disruptions to the public when fiber providers access public right-of-ways. Reforms such as these would promote efficient deployment of critical fiber infrastructure, support advanced data center growth. So we really thank NTI for the opportunity to speak to you, and we look forward to hearing the other speakers.
Great. Thank you so much, Gary, from the Fiber Broadband Association. We appreciate your time in this presentation. So we're going to open up the floor to those who have their hands raised. I'm going to call on Patrick Lozada first, then Miranda Lutz and Zachary Royster are on deck. Thank you so much. Patrick, over to you.
Hi, can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Great. And will I be able to share my presentation, or should I just...
I just muted
You
myself.
should be able to share.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. One moment. I'm just going to put that on screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Patrick Lozada, and I am Director of Global Policy at the Telecommunications Industry Association. TIA represents more than 400 of the manufacturers and suppliers of America's digital infrastructure. We're also an ANSI accredited standards developing organization that has developed thousands of standards over our 80+ year history. I'm going to talk about a number of topics today. I'll go through them pretty quickly. I'll keep to the 5 minutes. But the first one is something that folks have already touched on, and that is the importance of broadband infrastructure. We believe that access to robust broadband infrastructure is a necessary precondition for data center success. As folks have said, without the fiber optic cables and other equipment that connect data centers with the broader network, data centers don't serve their main function. On another level, customers need access to high-speed internet to create demand for services that data centers provide. Currently, 19.6 million Americans still lack access to broadband internet, according to a report earlier this year from the FCC. That's a problem that we need to solve if we want to support the broader broadband and data center ecosystem. Next thing I'm going to talk about is workforce issues. There's currently an enormous demand for trained workers who can support growing private and government investments in digital infrastructure. That's why we've partnered with QuestX to build Broadband Nation, a program that helps address this issue. There's three main parts to this program. The first is a career development portal, second is a national brand campaign, and the third is academic partnerships. But they all are centered around one main philosophy, is that we can't wait for people to look for broadband jobs. We have to bring the information and the resources to them to help educate them about the opportunities that America's digital infrastructure provides. Next, I'm going to talk about standards. We're a standards developing organization, and we believe that voluntary consensus standards are essential to data center success. You can see some of the relevant standards that we've developed that are used in data centers here, but I'm really going to focus on the first one, and that is ANSI TIA 942. It's a standard that's been around for more than a decade, and there are over 700 data centers around the world that have been certified to TIA's 942 standard. Some countries like India and Vietnam even require the certification to TIA 942 in the context of government procurement conducted in those countries. So it's something the government should think about. As a major data center consumer, the US government has the ability to use standards to drive reliability and efficiency in its own purchase of data center services. And that's what our standard really does. It defines and rates the reliability and availability so the customers can be assured that what they're buying meets the highest industry standards. Next, I'm going to talk about Build America, Buy America requirements, and we appreciate that the NTIA raised this issue. It's fundamentally a pretty complex and challenging one because there are a lot of different Buy America requirements out there. I won't sit and run you through all of them and what different agencies do, but I do want to focus on a few main takeaways. The first is that these laws use content thresholds as a gating criteria. And the second is that these rules were designed primarily with physical infrastructure like steel and concrete in mind, not with the complex electronics at the heart of data centers. No data centers will be able to meet these domestic content thresholds in the short to medium term as they rely on a global microelectronics supply chains that are not easily shifted. So to the extent that they apply to the ICT sector, they've relied on exemptions and waivers that have been put into place by Congress and successive administrations. And they need to be maintained if we want to make sure the United States leads in data center technologies, and the US government has access to the best in the world. Finally, I'm going to touch briefly on subsea cables. They're essential to feeding the growth of US data centers. And they're going to only be more so as data transmission needs grow with AI and other technologies. There'll be ways that this technology changes. We're watching how sort of multi-core fiber transforms and adds efficiency and data throughput through various types of fiber optic technology, including the ones at the heart of subsea cables. But I think on a policy level, to support the growth of subsea cables and data centers, we need to streamline the subsea cable licensing process to ensure that we have robust digital infrastructure for the future. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and appreciate NTI hosting the session. Over.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. We appreciate the shared thoughts there, and thank you for calling out my favorite subject, submarine cables. So next we are up, we're going to have Miranda start presenting. I just want to say we are at the last two presenters for this particular section, and I'll turn it over to my colleague Jorge after Zachary goes. Thank you. So over to you, Miranda.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Special thanks to NTIA and DOE for hosting this session. My name is Miranda Lutz, and I lead Cisco's global public policy work around AI infrastructure. Cisco is a global leader in networking and security, and we provide the connectivity, compute, and security solutions that power AI-ready data centers. I just want to highlight, and don't want to belabor the point because I think the importance of broadband and connectivity has already been well made by a lot of the other speakers, but just to showcase what we're seeing from a customer perspective, the latest Cisco's latest AI readiness index showed that 46% of U.S. organizations think that their current AI infrastructure or their current infrastructure cannot keep pace with the demands of AI. And so what that means is we're seeing a huge demand, not just on the hyperscale side, but also from private enterprise data centers, as well as on the edge. And so we see there's three major constraints to data center growth: network, power, and compute. Just want to highlight a couple trends on the infrastructure side for networking. One is around edge AI. Processing data closer to where it's generated is going to be key, particularly for those latency sensitive applications like healthcare or manufacturing. But that increases the complexity of your computing, your network, your power needs. And so we just want to encourage NTIA, especially as it's thinking through its national infrastructure strategy, to integrate edge AI into the policies to make sure that networking is supportable and is scalable and secure. And then also want to highlight the shift that we're seeing with agentic AI, just as we're going to move away from traditional chatbot style AI queries where there's a lot of peaks and valleys that follow demand. We're going to see more persistent inference demand with agentic when you have these AI agents that are acting on behalf of individuals or organizations. So that's going to make the scalability of compute, networking, and power even more important. And, just a lot of the networks today are relying on legacy equipment, which means that they're not scalable or flexible enough to handle the AI workloads and the data processing. And so, we encourage, public and private sectors to partner and work together on how we can, one, modernize that infrastructure, and then two, also explore how AI native networking solutions can help address some of these connectivity challenges. We think that, investment in new data center capacity is key, and the role that the government can play there, I think, is already been well covered by streamlining the regulatory processes around permitting, which would benefit the energy side, the data center construction side, and the broadband side, using government procurement as a market signal, and then also sharing best practices on AI-ready network and data center architectures. I also want to quickly touch on just the importance of energy efficiency within the data center. I think this will be covered in a later section. So we know that the grid needs to be modernized, and really investment in that grid modernization and accelerating the adoption of grid enhancing technologies is really the best way in the short term to maximize our available energy usage, while of course streamlining permitting and ensuring we can add new generation sources over the long term will help data center growth. And then within the data center, something that Cisco is really focused on is making sure that we're deploying energy efficient ICT equipment, developing practices like heat reuse and efficient cooling, which can also reduce energy costs. And so we think that this is a role the government can play in educating on the importance of energy efficient ICT to help encourage adoption and deliver those best practices. And then finally, I'll just touch on the security side as well. Security needs to be built into every layer of the data center, from physical to the digital. And so, we encourage the government to think about, 3 pillars of trust. One is making sure that you're using trusted sources of technology. So vendors need to be able to demonstrate that they are using their processes for designing, developing, and deploying data center technologies secure. 2, that you should be using trusted suppliers. So even if you're buying from trusted brands, if you're not sourcing from an authorized supplier, there's a risk of counterfeit or modified products, which can undermine the security that companies like Cisco bake into our data center solutions from the get-go. And then finally, trusted state, just thinking about the need to apply patches, deploy secure configurations, and keep data center equipment within its reported lifespan. Obsolete equipment, not only is it harder to operate AI models on, but it also can create greater vulnerabilities for sophisticated cyber attacks. And so something that we can see the government and private sector partnering together on is coming up with best practices and methodology for identifying that equipment. And that's something AI can help in identifying end of life or outdated equipment, replacing that equipment, and coming up with a plan to mitigate those risks. So, and I'll just really appreciate the session and look forward to working with NTIA and DOE and hearing the rest of the speakers. So thank you for the opportunity to engage.
Thank you so much, Miranda. We appreciate that. It does look like Mr. Royster and of course our friends from the iMasons are actually going to fit better under the next section. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jorge Pardo, who is going to moderate this, our challenges and opportunities section. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jorge.
Thank you, Maureen, and good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Pardo. I'm a policy advisor here at the NTIA's Office of Policy Analysis and Development. I'll be moderating the next section, which is titled Challenges and Opportunities to Bolster Data Center Growth in the United States. That would include 3 subsections. One is on permitting, which has already been discussed, but we'll welcome much more input on that as well. Grid enhancement, nuclear licensing and permitting, and environmental laws such as the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. Supply chain management is also something that we very much welcome input on. Shortages, vulnerabilities, and opportunities. We received input through a request for comments on certain equipment that seems to be hard to come by, including things like generators and transformers, chips, printed circuit boards, copper, aluminum, etc. And then lastly, we'll also like to address cybersecurity, including threats, best practices, and guidelines. We will have approximately 30 minutes for this section. The first speaker that we have lined up is Mr. Santiago Suinaga, the CEO of Infrastructure Masons. And we also have Zach Royster, the Senior Manager of Policy Public Sector at the Information Technology Industry Council, or ITI. The plan is to have Santiago and Zach provide their 5-minute remarks. And then after that, we'll open the floor for additional comments. Just a reminder, please provide your name and affiliation when you speak, and try to keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less. With that, please, Santiago, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jorge. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, NTIA. Thank you very much, Jorge, and all the audience here this morning. We are a nonprofit professional industry association that basically unites the. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes,
Perfect. So we have released this year our second State of the Digital Infrastructure Industry report. Our inaugural report was last year. So who's iMasons? Basically, we're a global nonprofit professional industry association. We have had since 2016 our foundation, more than 6,000 participants. And those 6,000 participants represents projects across the world of 1.5 trillion across 130 countries. And the reason why iMasons exists is basically we're uniting people, because we know that people drive innovation, and innovation drives efficiency. So we conducted interviews on one-on-ones to the network of iMasons to provide precisely this input of what's needed in the digital infrastructure industry, considering data centers, connectivity, and so forth. So obviously, we know that our industry is more relevant than ever, right? Because in the past, we were powering behind the scenes all that the world and the digital society do in our daily lives. But now with AI, we have hit the public square and the morning news and all the conversations. So this report is unique because it provides a holistic, multi-stakeholder perspective. As mentioned, we have in this report more than 500 contributors, and with a global view of different countries and real-world input. So I encourage you, the report is available for the ones that haven't taken a look. It's in our website, imasons.org. -publications. It's available for its download, and you can review all the views from different business leaders and one of the largest portfolio managers in terms of hyperscalers, data center providers, and so. The audience for the report is as well why this is intended to help educate and provide inputs to civic leaders, to policymakers, to investors, even to job seekers, because we understand that the industry is facing different constraints, and the talent is one of them. So let me go to the findings in the report. We have summarized on the report five challenges in the industry, and we call it the 5 Ps for using memory. So basically, the top of the challenges is, of course, the power. If we have more power available, we're pretty sure the industry will be growing even faster, and we will be seeing even further deployment. We have the people challenge as well, in terms of skilled professionals joining the industry to provide sufficient supply to meet this demand. Also, we have the protection side. We call the data protection, because with AI becomes concerns about how we protect data stored and transmit in different jurisdictions. Also, we have the planet in terms of the efficient use of resources and the perception of the industry. So these different sections are displayed and featured on the report. The power is the most comprehensive section on the report, because obviously we know that this is the largest concern, or is top of mind for most people. And the report goes to different sources. I think from the government standpoint and the policy maker, I think everything that we can do to enhance power development across different regions will be very useful for the industry to continue to grow. So the report covers the different sources of energies. It seems that for now the preferred use is the natural gas as a bridge until we find more adequate solutions, combining utilities, upgrade. And also the report covers how to, digital infrastructure has to partner with utilities and energy providers, because it's one of the major components for deploying these. I fully agree with what other speakers have mentioned on the previous section regarding connectivity. I think connectivity is something that we haven't seen before, because power is kind of more challenging, but connectivity is also could become challenging once we are deploying, outside of the populous metro interconnected areas. So that's something to watch as well. Perception is something very important for us, because we can see that on the public trust, there's increased public awareness that needs to be happening, because we have seen on the community engagement side that we have some pushbacks on communities for data center developments if we don't pay attention of what communities need specifically where we deploy. The people, I have covered that briefly. I think something that on the regulation standpoint we can do, and obviously will involve different government agencies.
Hi, Santiago. Hi,
Yes.
Santiago. Sorry, this is Sarah Sluba with NTIA. We're just about at 5 minutes, so we're going to need to ask you to wrap it up shortly. Thank you.
Perfect. So as mentioned, we have the five Ps, and basically I will encourage you to take a look at the report, right? You can download the report and provide more of your inputs. We're a global organization. Obviously, the majority of our membership is in the US base, and this is a forum to provide input and also to help guide some of the policy agenda in the industry. Thank you very much, and thanks NTIA for the space.
Thank you so much, Santiago, for your input and for putting together such a great informative report. Next on, we have Mr. Zach Royster, Senior Manager of Policy Public Sector at the ITI. Please, Zach, the floor is yours.
Yes, just confirming that you all can see the presentation.
Yes, we can. Thanks, Zach.
Okay, great. So good morning and thank you to NTIA for hosting today's listening session on bolstering data center growth. My name is Zach Royster and I'm the Senior Manager of Policy Public Sector at the Information Technology Industry Council. Now today I'll be building on ITI's comments that we submitted to NTIA in November by presenting on a new tool for data centers to use that presents an opportunity for driving greater resource efficiency within a facility. Now, ITI is an 80-member trade association that represents the full spectrum of technology companies contributing to nearly every facet of data center development and operations. This includes our affiliate membership, the Green Grid, which is an open industry consortium of data center owners, operators, technology providers, and more, collaborating to address a very core problem in the industry today, which is resource efficiency. The Green Grid has been working on advancing efficient data center operations since 2007, which has directly led to the development of metrics, tools, and the technical expertise contributing to the information age. Now, our foundational metric, power usage effectiveness, also known as PUE, transformed how the data center industry started to measure energy usage within a facility. But as technology has evolved, so has the resources demands and challenges with it, and so has the work of the Green Grid, which brings me to today. Now, earlier this year, the Green Grid released a brand new tool that empowers data center owners and operators to better understand how resource efficient a facility is. That tool is called Data Center Resource Effectiveness, also known as DCRE. So, what makes DCRE so unique? Emerging technologies, including AI, pose a very diverse set of challenges on a data center's resources. This means a data center needs to understand not just exactly how much energy it's consuming, but other factors like water consumption within a facility, water availability in the surrounding areas, and other geographic considerations. Ultimately, DCRE is an important evolution beyond PUE and is designed to be a comprehensive framework for understanding a data center's resource consumption. Now, on this slide, I've taken a screenshot of DCRE and included it. As you can see, DCRE is a multi-level maturity model that helps data center designers, owners, operators, and users choose which level to measure or model their resource effectiveness at. In the current version that's been released, there are 5 levels. Level 0 is just the foundation and is essentially just PUE that models the facility's energy use. But with each successive level, new factors are included in the scoring, including water used by the facility for cooling, climate zones, or even how much water is being consumed by the energy generation source, if that information is available. Scoring is based on the weight assigned to each factor, and the weight changes as we progress to a new level. Essentially, DCRE is a really useful tool for tracking a data center's performance over time and scoring improvements either within a specific level or as you move up levels. So are you interested in learning what a data center designed to be water efficient and sited in a specific location may look like? DCRE is a tool that can help model that for you. It's designed to be simple to use, easy to understand, and help raise awareness internally of your data center's resource management. Now, importantly, DCRE version 1 is just the foundation. The Green Grid will continue to update and release new iterations over time that include additional critical factors, creating this comprehensive framework. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Green Grid released a new groundbreaking metric, IT work capacity, that will be included in version 2 of DCRE. ITWC is a metric that simply scores the energy effectiveness of a computing workload, or other way to put it, it helps measure how much of the energy specifically is going to work within that facility. This standalone metric is now available on the Green Grid's website and will be considered as part of DCRE soon. DCRE can help data center owners and operators break down barriers to bolstering data center growth, addressing key challenges such as supply chain or power constraints, really by helping equip data center owners and operators with a more complete understanding and a clearer picture of their resource consumption. So we encourage the government to adopt DCRE as a next generation metric within the more than 10,000 data centers that exist in the government today. With the anticipated release of the administration's AI action plan, there is no better time than now to foster greater dialogue between industry and government on just how important a data center's performance is to bolstering U.S. AI leadership. So I just wanted to conclude today by really thanking NTIA for offering us this opportunity to come and speak about the Green Grid's work and some of the metrics that are driving efficiency within data centers. My contact information has been included on this slide in case you would like to learn more about ITI or the Green Grid's work. Thanks again, and we really appreciate the opportunity today.
Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for your input today, as well as for the comments that we received from ITI to the RFC back last year. Next, we're going to open the floor. We have about 8 more minutes till we jump onto the next section of the program. Just a friendly reminder to please keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less, and to provide name and affiliation while you speak. So please, floor is open. Welcome input from additional speakers. And just a reminder that we are open to receiving input from all the topics that you can see on the screen, including permitting, supply chain, cybersecurity, etc. We have an additional 7 minutes.
Jorge, if you will, or there's no further comments, I will tell that on the supply chain, I think we're always watching on the tariffs, probably on the data center space and connectivity. There's some components that could be receiving an exception, at least on a temporary basis, until we sharpen the strategy of how to source those materials that wouldn't affect the growth of the industry in terms of investment.
Thank you, Santiago. Thank you for that input. Appreciate it. Jordan, please go ahead.
Hello there. Good morning. This is Jordan Gross with Lumen Technologies. Just wanted to add one quick point in terms of on permitting front. We often think when we talk about connectivity and permitting, we're thinking of the fiber itself. Obviously, there are lots of challenges that come with permitting, and as one of the earlier speakers noted, unique challenges when you're thinking of connecting hyperscalers because of their distribution geographically. And so rather than, for a broadband build where you're likely dealing with much more concentrated jurisdictions for receiving permitting, for hyperscalers, especially now that are building all across the country, we're dealing with jurisdictions that are much more spread out and less concentrated. But what I really wanted to reinforce was, again, we spent a lot of time thinking about the permitting for the fiber itself, but we should also remember that we require fiber huts or ILAs along these routes every 100 miles or so that also require pretty intensive permitting. And so we're currently building out for a number of the major hyperscalers, and we've got hundreds of huts we're either building or upgrading, and we're required in these localities to go through the processes as if these were, a major housing development. And so would strongly encourage for NTIA to look at not just at the permitting for the fiber routes, but also these types of key infrastructure that's required to enable the fiber to function, and thinking through how we can come up with designations that would expedite these processes, especially since these are facilities that the public will not enter. Much of the time they are not within any sort of line of sight of any residences or provide any sort of unique challenges for the community. They're rather simple. They're the types of facilities that are commonly behind a fence that you wouldn't even notice. And so would make sense for there to be some examination to whether processes can be expedited to allow for our support of hyperscalers to be improved upon.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you so much for the input and for providing additional context within the permitting side of things. Just also a reminder that, beyond the issues that Jordan talked about, we also have welcome to receiving input on the nuclear side of things, as well as environmental laws such as NEPA. The floor is open for anybody that has additional comments on those or any other of the topics on the screen. We have time, another 3 more minutes, so we can do another speaker. If somebody wants to take the floor, just a couple more minutes for that before we move on to the next section. Last call for this section. I think somebody mentioned the chat nuclear. Welcome the input on that. We also have cybersecurity as a topic that is of interest as well as supply chain management, shortages, vulnerabilities, and opportunities. The floor is open for an additional minute.
Hi, this is
Okay.
Patrick from the Telecommunications Industry Association. I'm happy to fill time. I have one quick comment. If I can double dip here, would that be all right?
Please go ahead, Patrick.
Hi, yeah, just one quick remark. In terms of supply chain issues, I talk a little bit about Buy America requirements and how they might impact different data center projects. I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about the impact of tariffs and duties on data center development. A lot of equipment, particularly on the electronic side that's used in data centers, is not necessarily made in the United States. Maybe made in Mexico, it may be made in Asia. It depends on the type of equipment it is and who's building it. But to the extent that we're increasing tariffs on those products, that's also going to increase costs for data center development at home. So just wanted to make that quick remark. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate that input as well. I think with that, we're done with this section, and I'm going to now pass it on to my colleague, Sarah Skaluba, to get into the next 2 sections of the program. Over to you, Sarah.
Great. Thanks so much, Jorge. And thank you to all of the stakeholders who have joined this morning's session. It's great to see such fantastic turnout. I think we hit beyond 130 folks so far this morning. So this is the last session for today's listening session. Essentially, we'll be discussing 2 topics. The first is the latest policy developments and market developments impacting the data center industry. And then the second topic really is any roles or policy levers NTIA or the broader US government should consider taking to help facilitate data center growth, resiliency, and security. We had quite a few people pre-queued for this next portion, including somebody from RAND, WIA, ITI, and TIA. I know we've already hit quite a few of you, and you've provided comments. So if you're still interested in speaking to this topic, we'll open it up to everybody. And please just go ahead and raise your hand, and we will get you off of mute and give you screen sharing rights and presenter rights. And again, this last portion of our listening session today will cover relevant market developments, relevant policy developments, and then potential actions NTIA or USG more broadly can take. Sorry, I'm having an issue with my screen. Okay, I don't see any hands. Again, these can be informal comments. We don't necessarily need to have presentations with slides or PowerPoints. I know when we had our RFC process last year, we heard from folks about the need for public-private partnerships to spur data center growth. We also heard about potentially running a request for comment process on the Federal Data Center Enhancement Act. We heard about the need to streamline regulatory requirements. So really just welcome any comments on this next section. Well, if there's no comments on this, I will turn it back to Maureen. To close us out.
All right, everyone, thank you so much, Sarah and Jorge, for being flexible as we dove as we were discussing these issues today. And I also wanted to share from, some of our analysis from the request for comment we had last fall. A lot of interest in reducing the regulatory process. I think that's a major topic for everyone involved in all aspects of data centers. And we are also, we also heard from, folks in the telecom industries as well about, the access to high-speed internet and broadband going forward. And then, of course, multiple comments on how data centers are critical, of course, to artificial intelligence, which another key theme to everyone's comments today. So as we bring our session to a close, I just want to thank all of you still on the line and those who spoke and then left for joining us today. We want to extend a special thanks and gratitude to our Assistant Secretary, Adam Cassidy, to Neelish Narukar from the Department of Energy and his staff for making this listening session possible. we here at NTIA, as the principal advisor to the president on telecommunications and information policy, we're looking to expand our issue sets here under our, within our authorities to, really dive into these complicated data center and AI issues. It is becoming much more that we're not just talking about the internet. We're not just talking about telecommunications. We're talking about this all of this ecosystem, and we really appreciate all the comments and remarks shared with us today. So as we take this these notes back to the team and look through and identify more trends, we are working towards eventually getting a green paper out on this issue to identify federal policy goals and initiatives as well. Please stay tuned and please watch this space for more opportunities to interact with NTIA on this particular issue set. And before we sign off for today, I also want to, thank my team, Sarah, Jorge, Kennedy, Whitney, Chris. I'm so grateful for you sticking with us through this complicated process, and this wouldn't have happened without you. We are very, we're a small but mighty institution, and you are definitely proving that correct. So again, thank you for everyone who joined the call. We really appreciate you, your time, your expertise, and we look forward to continuing our engagement throughout the rest of this year and into the next. We hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you again. Bye.
Thanks all.